started. All right, so hello everyone again, also for the recording. This is the Q4 Adobe Analytics user group session for the EMEA user group. And in terms of agenda, we have a short round of introduction just from me, of course. As the lead of the user group, we're going to take a look at the latest Adobe Analytics release notes and what's new in the product, and then have a little bit of a get together and breakout rooms for as long as we want in the end of this session today. So I just noticed I have to update this introduction slide because I'm not working for DHL anymore, and Dan is no longer a user group lead of the EMEA user group. He had other business to attend in his company, so I'm alone now. But nonetheless, I'm still Frederick. I'm now head of analytics at the company called QTech, mentioned over here. And yeah, I'm leading this EMEA Adobe Analytics user group. Quickly, what we want to achieve with the user group is, of course, help people create more value with the tool we're already paying for, so Adobe Analytics. We want to bring people together around a favorite topic of Adobe Analytics and everything around it. We want to connect the community to Adobe's own product management and marketing and all those lovely people within Adobe, be a platform for great content and the stuff I have to say, and some new voices and my own. Offer something like what people have in the US over there, because there's so many events happening over there. They have the bigger summit, they have so many user groups, some also in person. They have the Adobe Insider Tour and like all those fantastic events that we don't have. And yeah, at least we have this user group to have a little bit of similar fun. And yeah, that's what it's all about, to have fun and get together every now and then. So what I want you to make sure is that you always join the chapter of the user group, because you can just sign up for an event like this one and not join the user group. And that will let you into that one event, but you will never get any notifications about future events. So we actually send out emails to let you know about future events. I have something very exciting to tease at the end of the introduction for next year. And yeah, so make sure to also join the chapter, because only then can we also contact you about future events. You should also check out our YouTube channel. It's way past 9 subscribers at this point in time. That's where we upload not only the recordings of this user group, but also from all the other user groups around the world. So all the latest feature releases, or all the previous feature releases of the year, I should say, already uploaded there. So if you've missed my presentation, for example, from last time, I did go in over some of those changes in great detail. It's all on the YouTube channel, free for you to watch. So make sure to subscribe and also take a look at that YouTube channel. So for the introduction, the last part is now a really exciting, can't really say an announcement because we cannot fully announce it yet, but it's more of a teaser for next year, because we've seen some great pickup and some great reception from our in-person user group meeting that happened at the EMEA Summit this year. So anyone who might be in chat who was there, like, you can just share some of your experiences on how that meeting went, but it was generally very well received. And now we're looking forward to making something similar, but we're the European Adobe Analytics user group, right? So why not have it as a European event in some European locations? So we're currently trying to figure out what exactly we can do, get some local buy-in from the Adobe teams. But yeah, stay tuned. Join the chapter in every case, so you get all the announcements. And yeah, stay tuned for that, because it's going to be exciting, very big, very large, very long, and yeah, a lot of fun next year. So then we're going to go over the actual content that I have prepared for this session. So what's new in Adobe Analytics? And we're just going to briefly go over what we've already gotten. So what you can also see as a kind of meta story throughout the years, we get a lot of the exciting stuff just before the US Summit and right after the code freeze that's now already in effect. So the release notes are way bigger and way more exciting towards like the beginning of the year. So you can see beginning of the year we had some very exciting stuff like folders in the Nessus workspace, auto-saving for new projects. So we already had that for existing project, that auto-save from time to time. We already have gotten that now for new projects since quite a while. Enhance user preferences. So if you always want to use unique visitors instead of occurrences in your freeform tables, you can just do that, since since the beginning of the year. Also calendar updates, so you can now set your calendar to be not just a set date range, but also to kind of be relative to what you select in the calendar. So like the last week is actually going to be the first week in the calendar. Super exciting stuff, all released beginning of the year. Also accompanying that, some updates to the panel date ranges, so you can now actually select a start and end time, which is super cool. Data dictionary in Analysis Workspace is also a great feature because that allows us to provide some more explanations to the data that people see in Analysis Workspace with data stories. So like a kind of slideshow feature within the mobile app. So you can actually have multiple slides that you can go through, like for your onboarding journeys, for like any user journey that might be of relevance to you. You can just nicely bundle that together now. You can share links for people outside of your company, and you can also like just share a link with your agency, with like your marketing team, that they don't need to log in for to actually view that report. So it's also super exciting stuff already been there in Q1. Then in Q2, what we covered is the partial support for Activity Map in Web SDK. So that's, if you're not aware, the successor of App Measurement, so the new front-end library of Adobe Analytics, and that now partially supports something that is a little bit similar to Activity Map. It's not quite the same thing, but kind of as close as you can get with Web SDK. We had some new features for classification sets that were released. So all the management, all the cloud destinations, all that for classification sets rolled out. We had a new variable in that measurement that was actually a switch to disable a feature called double encode link parameter. So if you ever had any weird characters in your custom links, you could actually disable this encoding now and get rid of those weird characters. So if you're an affected customer of that, and that would be very important to you, you could also send your data feeds to more secure destinations now. So for example, Amazon S3 or all the Azure and GCP environments are now supported, which is super cool. Also requested for a very long time, bot reporting in Analysis Workspace. It's still separate data, but you can now at least pull it into Workspace, which is super cool. You can just delete empty rows dynamically in freeform tables. I've done a demo on that on one of the previous meetings, so you can watch the recording if you like to. Same with the Add New button, which is super cool. We can now deep link into the mobile app, which is also super neat. My favorite feature probably of the year, also something I've shown in one of the previous user group meetings, is the dynamic dropdown filters. So you can now actually make those dropdown filters in a dynamic way that they always adapt to whatever you select. So they adapt to your date range, they adapt to your selected segments, they adapt to other filters. So it's super cool and already available for quite some time. Same also with sorting of components in Analysis Workspace, not that big of a feature, but that was also released this year. Then in the next release, in the next user group meeting, we talked about some new cloud account storage destination for classification data. So you can also pull those not only from FTP servers, but also more more cloud solutions like S3, GCP, and all that. Some filter enhancements for the data repair API if you're a customer of that. The reporting activity manager was released, so that's actually a place where you can manage the resources that you have as a company. And then if a user or a certain project is consuming all of your resources, you can just kill all those, not users, but all of those requests, and can free up some capacity for others, which is cool. And you can also now manage classification sets. You can now manage classification sets through the 2.0 APIs, and not just from the old one, but also the new one. Now on to the actual new features. So this is like the stuff that we haven't discussed yet. So we have now some more destinations for data warehouse. So just as we have for classification sets, we can now use data warehouse to send data not just to FTP servers and email, but also Google Cloud, like Azure and S3 as well, I believe. So all of those cloud destinations are now available there as well, which is cool. We now have not the classification set, but actually the old classifications also in the 2.0 API, which is interesting because the old feature wasn't supported before the new feature, which is kind of weird, but it's now there. They now list a support for a correlation ID field for A4T classification. So what that means is it's actually not a Adobe Analytics feature, but a feature for AEP and CJA. So if you bring your Adobe Analytics data into AEP and CJA, you can now do your A4T reporting in CJA because we finally have an ID to actually match the hits between Adobe Analytics and Target within AEP and CJA. So for the people who go onto AEP and CJA, that's also super cool and now finally supported. In the new like managing components experience that we also got, we now have some new columns available. So if you have, for example, your list of calculated metrics and segments, you now have columns there for when they've been last used and where they are used, which is super helpful to like weed out all the unused segments and calculated metrics that you might have. I tried that for myself, and despite some segments being used in some places like virtual reports, suites, and reports, I wasn't able to see that in the like manager. So I was a little bit afraid that people might delete stuff too early because they assume that it's not being used despite it being used. So it's a little bit weird, but they are going to sort that out. I'm sure of that. You now have a way to migrate Adobe Analytics projects with all the components included to Customer Journey Analytics. So if you're one of the customers who is currently in the process of migrating, there's now a way to bring those projects over. I haven't tested that myself yet. I need to play around with that a little bit to actually recommend it. But yeah, it's supported, so it's some cool. It's a cool move and a cool feature. And then they've listed this twice, so some enhancement to the reporting activity manager. So in reporting activity manager, you can now also throttle like what people and projects can do in terms of requests for the future. So you cannot just cancel anything that is running right now, but you can also say, all right, this user has used so much capacity over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to restrict them. And you can do that now if you want to use that feature. I'm still not a big fan of being restricted in that way anyways. But if you embrace it, if you want to use that, then it's yours to use. So some important changes to Adobe Analytics that are not new features. So there's been updates to the carrier database. So if you're using dimensions like your connection type or your domains, this is obviously going to be affected in some way, but it should be more accurate, just as the geolocation mapping. So if you're using country and all of those geolocation dimensions, those should be updated since the beginning of the year already. Then beginning of the year, you also probably saw some changes if you're using Report Builder, because all of your tasks suddenly stopped working and they've been paused because they've been doing some updates to the infrastructure. So they've been just pausing some stuff going out from Report Builder and Reports and Analytics. And there's been some updates to the device lookups due to Google Client Hints. So if you're familiar, that's kind of the well, let me know if anyone else is not having sound besides Linus, because otherwise I'm just talking into the void right now. I would like to know that. Well, all right, people can hear me. Sorry, I cannot help you right now, Linus, but let's continue for now. So what we also got during the year was those updates to device lookups due to Google Client Hints, which are kind of a successor to the whole user agent string. So this is a way to identify which devices people use, and there's been some updates to that. There should have been some updates to the new classification set architecture. There's currently a very mixed state of customers actually being migrated or not because of some issues that have been creeping up. But yeah, maybe you're already migrated, maybe you're not. they've announced the end of life of the PP metric for the co-op device graph. They've also announced the end of life of publishing lists, which is a feature of reports and analytics. So that makes sense because that is also being discontinued along with Data Workbench. So if you're using Data Workbench, then that's going to be unsupported towards the end of the year. After that, we've got some new changes in Q2 as well. So our purchase IDs and event IDs, which have been just kept by Adobe Analytics indefinitely before, now have a 37-month expiration. So if you send a same purchase ID after 37 months, it's actually not going to deduplicate your event anymore. So if you want to do that, then be aware that there might be some issues if you reuse the same ID like 37 months after. It shouldn't affect a lot of people, but just so you're aware. There's some new IP addresses that are used for some outgoing data feeds and data warehouse requests from the London data center, which is exciting. If you're one of the maybe 2 customers around the world who use the Japanese feature phone tracking service, that's also has been discontinued this year. And if you're using any API integrations, you might want to migrate to the server-to-server credentials, which is a successor of the current certificate-based credentials. And that's actually pretty cool and very much easier to manage, but it does require some work to get set up. So some new changes after that. This is actually the most recent one now. So what you can now do is, like previously, the IP obfuscation for Adobe Experience Edge hits, so hits that come through the Web SDK to Adobe Analytics, have been a little bit weird in terms of IP obfuscation, which is, of course, critical for GDPR compliance and all that. So that's now fully supported, and you should check out the documentation if that's something your company is very sensitive to. And if you're one of the few companies who use the Adobe Analytics live stream API, so that's the API that actually gives you all the kind of raw events in real time from Adobe Analytics, so like data feeds in real time. It's a super expensive add-on, but if you're one of the few customers around the world who use that feature, you can now do that through the 2.0 API. So that's, of course, super exciting if you're using that feature. If not, then of course it's not going to concern you a lot. All right, so that's everything we had this year in terms of new features and important changes. So goodbye already to the YouTube audience and Linus, who's probably watching us on YouTube then in the future. We're now going to stop the recording right